Good evening, guys. Give me a few minutes to set up 4C and we'll get going on that, okay? Have to reorganize my notes. Give me 2 seconds, please. Okay, here we go, folks. Here's a concise summary of key points from the article, The Great Global Caregiving Crisis by Hikari May Hida. Global Caregiving Crisis Core Themes. Raising demand, shrinking workforce. Aging populations are surging worldwide, especially in wealthy nations. By 2060, 30% of Europeans will be 65 plus, with 45 million needing daily assistance. Japan forecasts a need for 2.72 million nursing care workers by 2040. In the US, 1 in 6 people are 65, expected to raise to 47% by 2050. Caregiver strain and economic injustice. Despite high cost of care, caregivers often earn poverty level wages. Wendy Jane Carell, a senior care specialist, highlights how little of care funding reaches frontline workers. Family caregivers provide $873.5 billion worth of unpaid labor annually, making it the largest company by revenue if it were formalized. Mental health and neurodiversity overlap. 53 million Americans are family caregivers, many supporting loved ones with mental illness, addiction, or neurodiverse conditions. Nearly 40% of caregiver labor is tied to Alzheimer's or dementia care. Systematic gaps and urgent need for reform. The crisis is not just medical. It's infrastructural, economic, and cultural. The article calls for better support systems, policy innovations, and recognition of caregiving as an essential labor. If you'd like, I can help map this to your work on culturally responsive interventions or build a comprehensive framework across countries. Want to co-design a myth-busting toolkit around caregiving equality? Next. The caregiver strain issue is multi-layered crisis that intersects with economic injustice, mental health, gender equality, and infrastructure gaps. Here's a deeper dive into the dimensions highlighted in the article and how they connect to broader systematic challenges, economic and emotional toll, on caregivers. Poverty level wages despite high costs. Professional caregivers often earn near poverty level wages, even as care costs skyrocket. Much of the funding allocated for elder care doesn't reach frontline workers, creating a disconnect between investment and impact. Wendy Jane Carell notes that caregivers she worked with struggle financially despite being essential to care delivery. Unpaid family labor as individual backbone. Family caregivers provide an estimated 873.5 billion unpaid labor annually, more than any formal company's revenue. This labor is often unrecognized, unsupported, and unsustainable, especially for women who disproportionately shoulder caregiving roles. Mental health strain and burnout. Many caregivers support loved ones with Alzheimer's, dementia, addiction, or neurodiverse conditions, adding emotional complexity to their roles. Nearly 40% of caregiving labor is tied to dementia care, which requires intensive round-the-clock support. Caregivers face isolation, depression, and chronic stress, often without access to mental health resources or respite services. Gendered and cultural dimensions. Women, especially marginalized communities, overrepresented in caregiving roles. Culturally, expectations often pressure individuals to provide care without adequate support, leading to compounded emotional and financial strain. Would you like to co-develop a framework that maps caregiver strain across cultural contexts, or build a myth-busting guide to challenge assumptions about family duty and care labor? I think your participatory design lens could really shift the narrative here. Reducing caregiver strain requires a pronged approach, one that addresses emotional resilience, economic support, infrastructure, and cultural expectations. Here's a synthesis of evidence-based strategies drawn from clinical sources, caregiver networks, and policy recommendations. Framework for reducing caregiver strain. Structural and policy level interventions. Paid family leave and stipends. Formal recognition of caregiving labor through financial compensation or tax credits. Universal long-term care insurance, as seen in Japan and parts of Europe. This helps distribute care costs and reduce family burden. Respite care programs, government-funded or nonprofit services that offer temporary relief to caregivers. Care navigation services, case managers or digital platforms that help families coordinate medical, legal, and social supports. Community-based and cultural supports, peer support networks, local or online groups reduce isolation and normalize emotional challenges. Culturally tailored toolkits, resources adapted to language, values, and caregiving norms of specific communities. Faith-based and integrational models, leveraging trusted institutions and family networks to share caregiving roles. Mental health and wellness resources. Therapy and counseling access, especially for caregivers or loved ones with dementia, addiction, or mental illness. Mindfulness and stress reduction, techniques like journaling, breathing, exercises, and creative outlets, gardening, music, sleep, nutrition, and movement. Fundamental health practices that buffer against burnout. Technology and innovation. Telehealth and remote monitoring reduces travel and allows real-time supports. Care coordination apps. Tools like Caring Bridge or LOSA, Helping Hands, streamline tasks, sharing, and updates. AI companions and chatbots for emotional support, reminders, and even myth-busting caregiving misconceptions. Would you like to co-design a culturally responsive care support matrix or explore how these strategies vary across rural and urban settings? I can also help build an implementation guide tailored to African American elder care contexts. Technology can be a powerful ally in reducing caregiver strain, especially when it comes when it's designed with empathy, cultural, and responsiveness, and real world caregiving complexity in mind. Most effective tech-enabled strategies drawn from recent research and caregiver-centered platforms. Tech solutions to ease caregiver burden. Care coordination platforms. Example, T-Care, LOSA, Helping Hands, Caring Bridge. Impact, streamline tasks sharing, track appointments, and reduce decision fatigue. Bonus, some platforms offer burnout risk assessments and tailored support plans. Remote monitoring and smart sensors. Now, I'm going to give you guys some examples here. Fall detection devices, medication adherence sensors, GPS trackers. Impact, reduce constant supervision needs, especially for dementia or mobility impaired recipients. Equality note, must be adapted for rural or low bandwidth environments. Telehealth and virtual support. Example, video consultations, virtual therapy, online support groups. Impacts, cut travel time, expands access to specialists, and offer emotional relief. Cultural adaptation. Platforms should reflect linguistic and cultural norms of caregivers and care recipients. Okay, guys, so that is it for tonight. I will see everybody tomorrow for shows. Until then, Gator Wellness, take care, folks.